Of course, we get the CBS game on Saturday night, Texans and the Pats. Before that, Seattle and Atlanta. And Coach Bill Cowher, one of the great analysts on the NFL on CBS, along with Tony Gonzalez and Bart Scott and Boomer, JB the Maestro, making it all work. Coach Tiki Tierney, how are you today, Bill? What's happening?
Good. What's going on, guys?
We're doing well. I said to start the show, Bill, I don't know if you share this from your seat now. This is my favorite football weekend pertaining to the NFL of the year, because to me the Super Bowl is almost anything but football, sadly. The wild card weekend, you get a lot of teams that probably didn't deserve to be there. And today, this weekend, you get the stories that are undeniably palpable. I think this is the best weekend on the football calendar. You agree?
Well, it's the most intriguing, I think, because you're looking at teams that are coming off a bye, other teams who continue to play, and then, you always talk about, is it better to keep playing when you're playing well? Does the bye hurt your momentum? All those things that go in it, but certainly it's you're one step closer with this weekend. And I think honestly, outside of, I would honestly say Houston, I think 7 of the other 8 teams all have a legitimate shot of going all the way.
Bill, when I think about your former team, the Steelers, there's been a few things going on. We're not even going to talk about Terry Bradshaw, as he's apologized, and we all know that he was erroneous in saying that Mike Tomlin was just a cheerleader.
And disrespectful more than anything.
But more importantly, the Joey Porter thing and the distraction that it caused and the immediate, indefinite suspension. It's now been overturned, and he's going to coach this weekend. Will this linger at all, or will this easily go away?
Well, it won't linger with the team. I mean, certainly, I think that from that standpoint, I think just from Joey's, the perspective you have from him is it's just not a good optic. I mean, you sit there and look at the number of incidents that he's had, and because at some point, you have to move on, and you have to, continue to mature. And I think that's one of the things that you can't do is put yourself in the situation that he put himself into. Mike certainly did the appropriate thing, and as it's turned out, maybe it wasn't as, what it initially was charged. A lot of charges have been dropped, but you just can't put yourself in that situation. I mean, not as a coach.
Yeah, that's just that speaks for itself, no doubt. Bill Cowher with us here.
Just bad judgment.
Yep, got to know how many you can drink, right? How many? What's the limit? You got to know when to cut it off, right, Bill?
Well, I mean, I think
it's not even less than that. It's just more just walk away.
It's more than that. It's you just can't put yourself in any position where there's an altercation of any kind. I mean, it's like you tell your players. I mean, you just can't put yourself in that situation. I mean, you walk away from it. You're held to a higher standard. And so, I think if you're saying that to the players, it certainly has to hold true even to a higher level for coaches.
No doubt. Talking to Bill Cowher, of course, analyst in the NFL on CBS. You get the action, the NFL today. It's 7:30. Check that time, 7:30 Eastern this Saturday. The AFC divisional matchup, the Texans and the Pats, 8:15 kick on CBS. So, I tried to make the connection, the correlation, early in the show when we were talking about McVay, how he's the youngest head coach in the Super Bowl era, just 30. Now, Bill, obviously you know this. Some might not recall just how young you were, if they're young NFL fans, but you were only 34. Now, the difference for you, I think, was that, number one, you were taking over for a legend, but you're also part of a far more stable situation with the Steelers than what he's walking into with the Rams. What is the biggest obstacle being that young and trying to get things moving in the right direction, do you think, for him?
Well, I don't know what I mean. You can look at obstacles, but he's got a tremendous opportunity. And I think the biggest thing for him is, and I know for myself, when I walked in there to Pittsburgh, it was a complete overhaul. I mean, I kept one coach from the previous staff, that was Nick Hoke, who had been there as a player and as a coach for 30-some years. So he's the only one I kept. But I think the biggest thing for him is putting together a staff, and I think obviously getting Wade Phillips to take care of his defense was a really good hire by him. My first hire was Ron Earhart, who came from the Giants, because him and I thought a lot. I wanted to run the football. He brought stability to that side of the ball, and it allowed me to be a head coach and have my input to what I was brought in there to do was on the defensive side of the ball. So, but I think the biggest thing is just making sure you surround yourself with good assistant coaches, understand what the makeup is in that in the organization, and make sure he gets his hand in there on the personnel side of it, because to have sustainability, you have to get involved with personnel, involved with the draft and free agency, all those things, because you're only going to be as good as the players that you bring in that fit the system that you want to build.
You know what's interesting to me here, Bill, and you lay that out well. with all of the access that the fans now have to the NFL, I feel like the dynamic that you just explained, making sure that you hire the right people from a head coach point of view, trying to fill out a staff, we don't really tap into that as much maybe as we should. And obviously you want to have a cohesive relationship. But I'm curious, when you sit down with a potential coordinator, do you want somebody that is not inflexible? That obviously would not be a good thing, but that is so in charge of their own vision that it almost comes across as maybe overwhelming? Or do you want somebody that is more of a yes person? Probably somewhere in between, I would imagine. But I guess what I'm asking, what is the perfect relationship fit? When you're in the other chair, what exactly are you looking for that other person to say to you?
Well, I think with any assistant, you want someone who has a degree of confidence when they walk in. They can articulate it well because they got to be good teachers. I mean, I don't care what person knows, they have to be a good teacher. They have to be able to relate to players and understand the right buttons to push. But they also have to have a system they believe in. It matches what you're thinking. They also have to have flexibility because you know what? It isn't about putting players into systems. It's about getting a system that is flexible enough to build around what you have talent-wise. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be flexibility. There's got to be an understanding. There's got to be a vision. But there better be good communication skills because you want good teachers more than you want anything else.
It's Bill Cowher, former head coach of the Steelers, and a really good one, obviously. And he's, of course, part of the CBS crew. NFL on CBS Saturday. 7:30, the coverage with the boys that I mentioned before, led by JB. You got the matchup on Saturday night at 8:15. The Texans and the Pats, of course, on CBS.
Bill, you've been to this stage many times as a coach in the postseason, and I wonder because so much of the regular season is spent determining who you are, what's your identity, what you're good at, where your vulnerabilities are, etc. But when you get to the stage, it gets exacerbated. So when I look at some of these teams, like Seattle, and that's the first game of this weekend, going against Atlanta, who has just been off the charts. They had a good run experience last weekend, but for most of the year, it hasn't been that good. Can they just all of a sudden turn it on because they've been on this stage? Pete Carroll is such a great coach in the postseason, Russell Wilson, all of that. Can it just turn on when it matters?
You know what? And Tiki, I've been watching them all year, and you're right. I mean, their offensive line has not performed very well. But all of a sudden, last week, you see Thomas Rawls running. Okay, listen, we know who they played, and all of a sudden, this kid Paul Richardson comes out and looks like the next coming of the greatest receiver in the National Football League. I mean, he's making some unbelievable catches, and so, and we're talking about Russell Wilson, who did not even run with the football last week, which I think you'll see this week. So. They have a pedigree of understanding what it takes this time of the year, and they are a very dangerous team to play. Listen, we all know the weapons Atlanta has, but you know as well as I do, Tiki, you get into the playoffs, it's one game.
Yeah.
And and it just takes one game, and if you've been there before, there's a lot to be said for that, and I would never put anything past a quarterback like Russell Wilson. It is a tall task. But I'll tell you what, the Seattle was a very dangerous team to play.
I wanted to ask you here, Bill. I don't know when it exactly happened, but it undeniably did. When these two terms infiltrated our medium, elite and legacy. And if used, I hear you. If used properly, there's, it's an interesting conversation. Problem is, we beat it to a bloody pulp. But I do want to ask you about Matty Ryan. I think he's going to win the MVP. I believe he should win the MVP, but he doesn't have the Super Bowl. Even though he did play well in the NFC Championship game years ago against the Niners, he threw for almost 400 yards against a very good San Francisco defense. I believe, Coach, that Matt Ryan probably stands the most to gain perceptually out of anybody else that's still playing in football right now. Do you think that that's a good statement, or am I off base with that?
No, I mean, you know what, Brandon, it's a statement everyone loves to talk about, and I think Tiki could answer this as well. I mean, but we still have a game that's played with 10 other players on the field. I mean, and football is so much a team sport, and so much of it is reliant on your success based on that team. You look at the defense that Russell Wilson has been able to play with over the last few years. It's been the best defense in football. Look at the defense that Matt Ryan's been playing with, and it's a work in progress. So, I think, again, we tend to want to take an individual and we want to compare them, but so much of it is relevant to who you have around you. I think Matt Ryan is one. I mean, he's had an MVP season, no question. I think he's an upper, and I think he is an elite quarterback in today's game. But what your legacy comes down to, and how you get viewed, it's all in the eyes of the beholder. We all know it takes a football team to win championships. And certainly there's some great individual efforts along the way that when you fall short, it should not be diminished based on your lack of you not getting there.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I think you're right. Another thing, and I guess this is the marquee game of the weekend, the Dallas Cowboys against the red-hot Green Bay Packers on Sunday afternoon. Now, you did it with Ben when he was a rookie, and so
Right.
you know this situation with a young quarterback coming into the postseason, not having had any postseason experience. What's that like for him, and what will it be like for Dak Prescott?
Well, Jason Garrett has done a tremendous job of keeping everything focused down there because I think a lot of things get built up to almost a circus type atmosphere when you're in Dallas, the Dallas Cowboys, because everything is just so magnified. But listen, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, those two kids have infused a tremendous energy down there. Created a very high expectation now going into the playoffs, but it is different. You know that as well as I do, Tiki. You get into the playoffs. As much as you want to keep everything the same, don't forget how you got here. The preparation is the same. There's a speed that goes with the game at playoff time. There's a sense of finality, so to speak, as you start to get as a game unfolds. That you got to just be careful that you don't get out of your helm and that you sit there and can stay in the moment. And listen, no one is a more dangerous guy to play than Aaron Rodgers. You talk about what he's done this year and bringing this team where they are, and another dangerous team to have to play. But the Dallas Cowboys are very good at home. They got the best offensive line in football. They just got to continue to do what they're doing. And Dak Prescott, he seems very mature for his years. But still, this is his first experience, and sometimes you just never know what you're going to get.
Hey, Bill, before we let you go, I need some advice, some friendly advice here, man. I laid this on Tiki, and our audience has weighed in tremendously. My little guy's 2 years old. As you know, I'm a devout Jets fan, unfortunately. But I'm in for life. I always will be. That's not changing. My wife's from Dallas. She's a devout Cowboys fan. Now, my worry here, Coach, is she wants to put them in Cowboys gear this Sunday. And I'm worried that if they win, and by the way, I think that they will, and if they actually win the Super Bowl, I've got a picture of my little guy at the age of 2, which lives forever, which probably will influence him becoming a Cowboys fan for life, which, quite frankly, will shatter my dream of the relationship that I always envisioned having with my son. What do I do?
Well, I think number one, you got to make sure you keep the pictures to yourself, and make sure once you take the pictures, you can have your wife have her moment. He's 2 years old. You've got plenty of time, Brandon. The Jets will get this turned around. We all know that the NFL is cyclical, so just wait for your time. Be patient here. Don't overreact, and just stay the course. The kid's going to be fine. Keep your Jets gear out there, and it's going to get turned around. So, just don't overreact right now. Let them enjoy their moment, but you will have the last laugh.
You know what? Smart words by a smart man. But I do tend to overreact, and I do tend to be a little bit too into it here. By the way, so are you done coming by Tops? That was it for you, right?
I don't know. I love coming by there. I love coming by there and talking with you guys. It's a great atmosphere over there. I don't know if I'm coming in. I don't think I'm coming in Sunday, but I'll be there Saturday if you guys are.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I didn't know if you were coming this Saturday because we're around. I wanted to thank you because Coach has been. All you guys play ball. I know you got a long day. Tony, Bart, Boomer, you guys all roll in, and you really help us out. I want to make sure that people understand that we appreciate that. So I just wanted to thank you for that, Bill. Good stuff, man.
Oh, listen, I enjoy it, man. You guys are the best.
See you, pal.
All right. See you guys.
Thank
Be
you,
good,
Bill.
Coach.